Good morning, all of you. Today we'll discuss on osteomyelitis and important chapter from orthopedic point of view. Myself, Dr. Prashant Dumre, I am assistant professor in Department of Orthopedics. So we'll discuss what is the meant by the term osteomyelitis. The term osteomyelitis was first coined by Nelaton in 1834. It is includes three root words, that is osteon means bone, myelo means marrow, and combination itis, that is inflammation. So basically it is infection of the bone, and bone marrow is known as osteomyelitis. It may remain localized, or it may spread through the bone to involve the marrow, cortex, periosteum, and soft tissues surrounding the bone. Classification: it is classified into three types, that is acute, subacute, and chronic, and mechanism is hematogenous and exogenous. So as the osteomyelitis is divided into three forms, as we discussed: acute, subacute, and chronic. The acute is termed when the infection is less than 2 weeks, we term it as acute osteomyelitis. If the infection is more than 2 weeks but less than 3 months, we term it as subacute osteomyelitis, and if it is the infection is more than 3 months, then we'll term it as chronic osteomyelitis. So basically three basic mechanisms allow the infection to reach the bone. First is hematogenous, then second is contagious source, and third is direct implantation. So hematogenous osteomyelitis, primarily hematogenous osteomyelitis is characterized by acute infection of bone caused by seeding of bacteria within the bone from the remote source. Hematogenous osteomyelitis usually occurs during the period of growth and does occur primarily in children. However, all ages may be affected, and cases are even found in older ages. So causes of osteomyelitis are divided into general factor and local factor. In general factor, there is anemia, debility, infection, poor nutrition, poor immune status. These are the general factors and local factors are hairpin bean vessels, metaphyseal hemorrhage, defective phagocytosis, rapid growth of metaphyses, and vasospasm. So types of organisms that can cause osteomyelitis are bacteria, virus, and fungi. Generally, bacterial infections are more destructive and move rapidly. Fungi tend to produce slow and chronic infection. Tuberculosis and brucellosis range from aggressive to reparative. So pathophysiology, basically the metaphyses of the long bone are highly vascularized zone. So this is the metaphyses of the long bone, which is highly vascularized. From the diaphyses, the medullary artery reach to the growth plate, the area of greatest activity, and branch into the capillaries. The venous system in this area drain towards the diaphyses. The vessels in this zone are arranged in the form of loop, resulting in sluggish flow of blood, leading to bacterial enlargement and thus hematogenous osteomyelitis. So this is the main reason due to which the infection occurs at the level of the metaphyses due to the hairpin bend arrangement of the arterial blood supplies, and also due to which there is sluggish blood supply, which is more prone for acute osteomyelitis occurring at the level of metaphyses. So clinical features are febrile illness, limping to walk, evidence of using the extremity, pain, swelling, cannot pinpoint onset, fever, swelling, and purulent drainage. So these are the few clinical features. Other generalized features are in the form of fever, fatigue, irritability, malaise, restriction of movement of the limb, local edema, erythema, and tenderness. Development of osteomyelitis that occurs first in this picture, we can see initial site of infection and periosteum. So this is the first picture, which will in the second picture we can see blood supply is blocked and subperiosteal abscess is formed. So here the blood supply is blocked, due to which this periosteal abscess is formed over here. And this is the third figure, in which we can see there is epiphyseal line. This is the sequestrum, which is a piece of dead necrotic bone, and this is the pus around the sequestrum, and this is the involucrum, which is the healthy granulation tissue surrounding the sequestrum. So which are the risk factors? Trauma, prosthetic orthopedic device, diabetes, peripheral vascular disease, IV drug abuse, chronic steroid use, immunosuppression, TB, HIV, AIDS, and sickle cell disease. These are the risk factors for osteomyelitis. Diagnosis: early diagnosis of acute osteomyelitis is critical because of prompt antibiotic therapy may prevent necrosis of the bone. Osteomyelitis is primarily a clinical diagnosis, and inadequate or late diagnosis significantly diminishes the cure rate and increases the degree of complication and morbidity. So early diagnosis is very important in case of osteomyelitis. So what all investigations that we can do? We can do a laboratory investigation such as aspiration of the pus or fluid. Then WBC, we can do a TLC count, which is usually elevated in osteomyelitis. Along with elevation of TLC count, the P polymorphonuclear leukocyte count is also elevated. C-reactive protein is elevated. ESR is usually elevated. Blood culture results are positive in patients with hematogenous osteomyelitis. So all these investigations we can do in case of osteomyelitis, and which will be helpful in diagnosing osteomyelitis in the early stages also. So what are the radiological investigations? In radiological investigation, basically we can do a plain X-ray which will show soft tissue swelling and loss of fascicle planes, and these findings are usually encountered within 24 to 48 hours of infection. So the radiological findings on plain X-ray changes as per the duration of the infection. If the infection is in the first week, the X-ray may not show any abnormality. If it is in the second week, may show faint extracortical outline due to the periosteal new bone formation. If it is in the 7 to 10 day, it will show destructive lytic lesion usually occurs. 3 to 6 weeks, elevation of the periosteum and layered new bone formation. 3 to 8 weeks, dead bone, that is sequestra formation. So this is the X-ray of a long bone in which the fracture is treated with intramedullary annealing, which is finally gone into delayed union along with infection, due to which there is infection along with delayed union. And also we can see this is the periosteal reaction occurring at the fracture site, which is seen in case of osteomyelitis. So this is the another X-ray in which we can see sequestrum surrounded by inoculum. This is the sequestrum, piece of dead and necrotic bone around which there is inoculum. So another radiological investigation that could be helpful is ultrasound, which may detect a collection of fluid in the early stages. So CT scan, it is the another investigation. It is helpful to detect erosions and to document the presence of sequestrum, foreign body or gas formation. So it is useful in detecting all these things. So MRI can be helpful in case of doubtful diagnosis. It is highly sensitive for detecting osteomyelitis as early as 3 to 5 days after the onset of the infection. It is the best method of demonstrating bone marrow inflammation. It helps to differentiate between soft tissue infection and osteomyelitis. MRI is basically a gold standard in diagnosis of osteomyelitis. Differential diagnoses are cellulitis, acute suppurative arthritis, streptococcal necrotizing myositis, sickle cell disease, Gaucher's disease, TB, and Ewing sarcoma. This could be the differential diagnosis for osteomyelitis. So treatment is in the form of nutritional therapy like adequate calorie intake, supplementation of vitamins, proteins, antibiotic therapy. Surgical treatment is in the form of incision and drainage, and splintage in immobilization, that is splintage of the affected part. Complications, the most common complications are chronic osteomyelitis, septic arthritis, growth disturbance, septicemia, DVT, pulmonary embolism, pathological fracture, metastatic infection. These are the most common complication of acute osteomyelitis. So management includes investigation plus treatment, in which there is clinical diagnosis is done by bone marrow aspiration or blood cultures. Then after that, the antibiotic therapy is given. Culture and antibiotic susceptibility results. After the results, the change in antibiotic, if necessary, change to oral antibiotic when the patient is clinically stable, and continue parenteral antibiotic if the patient is clinically unstable. Subacute osteomyelitis treatment is mostly in the form of immobilization, antibiotics like flucloxacillin and fusidic acid for 6 weeks. Surgical, if diagnosis is in doubt, and failed conservative treatment is in the form of open biopsy and perform curettage of the lesion. So this is the clinical picture in which of chronic osteomyelitis, in which we can see there is a discharging sinus at this site, and also the limb is swollen and there is irregularity, and also there is depression at the bone of, and there also depression is seen at this level, and also irregularity of the bone is also seen, and along with that there is discharging sinus, which is highly suggestive for chronic osteomyelitis. This is the histological figure in which we can see of chronic osteomyelitis, in which we can see this is the skin, this is the discharging draining sinus which is coming from the center of the medullary canal, this is the sequestrum which is a piece of the dead necrotic bone, and this is the soft tissue at this feature which is seen in chronic osteomyelitis. So this is the X-ray of a long bone, in which we can see the sequestrum, this is the inolicrum, and this is the new periosteal reaction formation is seen, which is a most classical picture seen in case of chronic osteomyelitis. So this is the another X-ray in which we can see periosteal new bone formation, inolicrum and sequestrum. So this is a clinical picture of the sequestrum, which you can see, which can be identified as a piece of dead necrotic bone, as there is a diminished blood supply, diminished or negligible blood supply is there. So it is a dead and necrotic bone which can be easily identified and can be seen like this. So staging of osteomyelitis is done by Sireni-Medar staging system. It is determined by the status of the disease process, and it takes into account the state of the bone, the patient's overall condition, and factors affecting the development of osteomyelitis. So classification is anatomical type and physiological type, physiological class or type. This is anatomical type is into 4 stages: medullary, superficial, localized and diffuse, and physiological is A host, B host and C host. A host is normal, B host is compromised, and C host treatment worse than the disease. So this is the diagrammatic presentation of Sireni-Medar classification, in which stage 1, that is medullary, that is the infection is confined to the medullary canal and is within the medullary canal. So this is the picture showing stage 1 of Sireni-Medar classification, that is medullary osteomyelitis. Stage 2, as the infection has confined to the surface of the bone, it comes under stage 2. The stage 3, the infection is a full thickness cortical sequestration is seen, and in diffuse osteomyelitis, loss of bone stability is seen even after surgical debridement. So this is the clinical picture or clinical X-ray. So this is the X-ray of a long bone, in which we can see there is non-union at the fracture site. Along with non-union, there is infection, which is of chronic osteomyelitis, and this patient was treated with Ilizarro ring fixator. With this type of ring fixator was applied, and which when the patient came with after application of this ring fixator, this is the follow-up X-ray, in which we can see how the callus has been formed and the bone fracture has been healed neatly and cleanly with a good callus formation, and there is no infection at the fracture site also. Antibiotics treatment is mostly antibiotics. Chronic infection is seldom eradicated by antibiotics alone. Bactericidal drugs are more important to stop the spread of the infection to healthy bone. Control acute flares. Antibiotic most commonly used are fusidic acid, clindamycin, vancomycin and cefazolin. These are the most commonly used antibiotic. Antibiotic of choice are clindamycin and vancomycin, as they have good bone penetration. Minimum 6 weeks with 3 months being standard treatment course. So antibiotics are given for minimum 6 weeks. May need to treat for 6 to 12 months. Antibiotic is given for 10 days prior to surgery. After the major debridement surgery, antibiotic is continued for another 6 weeks. So surgical treatment is in the form of debridement of all the infected tissue and dead and devitalized bone, that is sequestrum and sinus. So this is a surgical treatment in which if there is a dead space or bony cavity is formed, which is filled with cancellous bone chips and is covered with the sealant, and then the closure is done, which is also termed as Papineau technique. It is helpful if there is a bone loss or if there is a big bony cavity is present or dead space is present. So this is a clinical picture in which we can see incision and drainage has been done, and infected tissue has been removed, and debridement has been done. This is the X-ray in which of a long bone. Again, we can see over here there is a non-union at the fracture site. Along with non-union, there is a periosteal reaction formation, and also there is infection of this at the fracture site. So this is the Papineau technique in which the dead space or bony cavity is filled with cancellous bone chips or cancellous bone grafts and is then covered. So that's it. Thank you.